This is the reading test, social science, from the ACT Enhanced test that was released online. So beginning in spring 2025, students can take the enhanced online test. That'll be in April. Beginning in September, any student taking the national test will take the enhanced test. For the reading section, that means 40 minutes for 36 questions. That's a change. The current ACT is 40 questions in 35 minutes. So you have more time with fewer questions. According to this release, which is the June 2023 release though, the reading passages are not any shorter. There's still 4 passages in the same order. There's just 1 fewer question per passage. Students will have to consider whether to take the test digitally versus paper. For the digital test, it is nice in that the areas that are highlighted are what's referenced in the text. In the paper copy, it's going to tell you what lines to refer to. There's some advantages to each one. Students should practice to see which one works best for them. So this is our passage. You have to decide the best strategy for you. Are you going to read it? We just start and read through it. You have about 10 minutes per passage to read, answer, and bubble in the enhanced version. You could Google summary, where you give a short summary of each paragraph that you read, and you could try to map it, which is just reading the intro sentences of each paragraph to get a general idea of what it's about, and then use the line numbers of the questions to help you know where to go. So whichever method works best for you, or however you're using this video, decide. You might want to read the passage first, then work through the questions, or just check your answers and the ones that you miss. Question number 10, the main purpose of the passage. Generally, it's best to answer these questions at the end of the test, because after you interact with the other questions, you can come back to this question, and it's a bit easier. So we're going to go ahead and look at this one though, just because I'm doing the video in order. So the first paragraph, always a good idea to know the main purpose. It talks about the beauty of the tulip and how broken tulips were extraordinarily valuable at the time, right? Beautiful, valuable. And it goes on to say that they were commodities, the virus weakened the health of the bulbs. And so we know it's not to highlight changes in the flower industries. It does talk about some changes, but that is not the main purpose. Is it to examine the way the plants have been represented in art over the centuries? First of all, it's not just certain plants, it's one plant, the tulip, and it's not all about art through the centuries. So choice B would be out. Choice C, provide an overview of plant viruses. It has a mention that says that's what was causing the broken tulips, but that's not the main point. The main point is to explain a particular flower variation and how it has been perceived historically through art, through commerce, through different things. So D. Number 11, the main point of the second paragraph. Okay, so this one it talks about how the closest we have to broken tulip today is a group known as the Rembrandts. They're named because it's Rembrandt painted them. And it talks about just striking examples of them all, right? So is it choice F? Modern Rembrandt tulips have been painted by many famous artists. That's not mentioned anywhere in that paragraph. To compare 17th century tulip bulbs to today's multicolored tulip bulbs. Maybe. Choice H, the tulip known as Semper Augustus was a striking example of the 17th century broken tulip. Well, it does mention that, but that's not the main point. And Rembrandt was responsible for painting the most famous tulip breaks of the time. It mentions that also, but not the main point. I think the main point is to compare 17th century tulips to today's tulips, which are a little more clumsy by comparison. So G. It can be reasonably inferred from the passage that some 17th century tulip growers believe tulip breaks were mainly caused by. Okay, so this is found in this paragraph starting around line 37. And it talks about how they would paint their powders to the desired hue. Some would use pigeon droppings, some would use plaster dust. So it's not about where they were stored, or about disease. They found that out later, or even weather patterns. It does talk about rain, but that's not what the growers believed. So they believed that it was certain growing techniques. Choice C. The information in lines 56 to 63 primarily functions to, okay, so we have information that talks about how the virus was responsible and how the virus works by partially and irregularly suppressing the, however you say that word, allowing the underlying color to show through. So does it describe the range of tulip colors in this paragraph? No. Explain how color variation occurs? Probably. Argue that yellow and white are the only natural tulip colors. That's not the primary function of this paragraph. Indicate why broken tulips contain no, whatever that word is. That's not the main purpose. It's just to explain how the color variation worked. The sixth paragraph, lines 78 to 84, differs from the rest of the passage in that it does what? So this is where the author says, I can't help thinking the virus was supplying something the tulip needed. And he goes on to kind of philosophically state his opinion. So does he question whether the virus caused broken tulips was harmful? Nope, doesn't question that. He just is thinking, sharing his thoughts. Argue that growers should have dealt with the broken tulips differently. Doesn't talk about growers. He's not really making an argument. Challenge the idea that broken tulips are beautiful. Doesn't talk about challenging the beauty. Presents a personal meditation on broken tulips. Absolutely. D. Number 15. According to the passage, which means it's in the passage, the 17th century fact that broken tulips tended to produce fewer and smaller offsets compared to typical tulip bulbs resulted in what? So again, unlimited time. This is in the passage. You could find it. Hardest part of this is in a timed setting and may be difficult sometimes. So we see this around line 18. They produced fewer and smaller offsets than ordinary tulips. It drove their prices still higher, so resulted in an increase in price for broken tulips. This is the question that is omitted in the enhanced online practice, only 9 questions per passage in the new enhanced ACT. It is part of the original June 2023 test. We're going to go ahead and do it. It can be reasonably inferred from the passage that one group of modern multicolored tulips was named after Rembrandt to do what? So we see this here. The closest we have to broken tulip today is a group known as Rembrandt's, named because Rembrandt painted some of the most admired breaks of his time. Latter-day tulips with their heavy pattern of one or more contrasting colors look clumsy by comparison. So highlight Rembrandt's status in the Dutch tulip trade. Nope, he's definitely not A. Reassure consumers about the health of modern tulips. Nope. Favorably compare modern tulips to broken tulips in Rembrandt's paintings. Yes. Indicate that modern tulips are identical to the tulips Rembrandt grew. None of those. It's just saying he was a great artist, so we're going to name tulips after him. In the passage, the author compares broken tulips as they are represented in Rembrandt's paintings to. So we know it's there somewhere, right? So it says it around line 30, and it says the petals of broken tulips could be as fine and intricate as marbleized papers. Hardest part about that question is just finding it. Unlimited time, I would expect almost every student to get this one right. Limited time, it might be tricky to find. Number 17, the passage author most likely mentioned that peach trees were a staple of 17th century gardens too. Okay, so it mentions the peach trees around line 67. Peach trees were a common feature of 17th century gardens. This paragraph is about the viruses being responsible for the broken tulips, and it says the peach potato aphid was what carried the virus, so it explains how peach potato aphids spread the tulip virus. As it is used in line 79, the word abandon most nearly means. So it says, I can't help thinking that the virus was supplying something the tulip needed. Just the touch of abandon, the flower's chilly formality called for. So the brokenness, the virus, gave it a little bit of something that's not formal. So uninhibited, probably. Relinquishment needs to give up something. Retreat means to move back, to go away. And denial means to say it's not true, right? So uninhibitedness is what it is. It's the opposite of formality, right? So F. Okay, as always, reach out if you have any questions about this passage or how you should approach it. We'll end with our silly joke of the day. What did the bee say to the flower? What's up, honey? Okay, that one's really, really dumb. Have a good day.